Alright, so I recently watched this video talking about food plants blowing up, and I thought to myself, well, that's gonna make the price of everything go up more. So this clip is from Fox. Here, take a listen.
Time in a week that something like this has happened. On April 14th, the plane crashed into the Gem State Processing in East Idaho. What's going on here? Well, the story gets weirder. Food processing plants all over the country seem to be catching fire. A couple of days ago, a fire destroyed the headquarters of Azure Standard, one of the largest organic food distributors in the country. At the end of last month, a fire severely damaged a fresh onion packing facility in South Texas. In Oregon, a potato chip processing plant just reported a boiler explosion that sent workers to the hospital. Here's a news report on that.
Eastern Oregon, where crews are battling a major fire at a potato chip processing plant. Air 12 flew over the scene at Shearer's Foods on Highway 207 in Hermiston. We're told the fire was caused by an explosion of a portable boiler there. 2 people were taken to the hospital.
So industrial accidents happen, of course, but this is a lot of industrial accidents at food processing facilities at the same time the president's warning us about food shortages. They're getting hit by planes and catching fire. What is going on here exactly? Jason Rance hosts a radio show in Seattle and joins us to put it into perspective. Jason, good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, obviously, when something happens every so often, you obviously hope that there's no significant damage and certainly no one gets hurt, but you kind of write it off. It's not that big of a deal. Accidents happen. But when you've got well over a dozen food processing plants and warehouses getting destroyed or seriously damaged over just the last few weeks, at a time when the food supply is already vulnerable, it's obviously suspicious, and it could lead to serious food shortages. That's why some folks are now wondering, well, number one, what's going on? And you've got some people speculating that this might be an intentional way to disrupt the food supply.
Wait, may I ask you to pause there really quick? Can I just ask you, I just want to nail this down so our viewers understand. There have been confirmed over a dozen disabling accidents at food plants in the last month, over a dozen.
Absolutely, and we're talking.
So this clip I put in there, it's a little longer. I couldn't find the actual clip from Fox, but some YouTuber had it up on their YouTube channel, so I'll post the link to their channel. The main takeaway for me would be when they're talking about how people are speculating that it was an intentional damage to cause a food shortage. Now, that's really, people would say, conspiracy theories. But for me, given everything that's happened, for example, I made a video a while back about how Alex Jones predicted a war. He didn't know it would be between Russia or Ukraine, but he predicted a war months before it happened. So I could definitely see these food plants being blown up intentionally to cause a food shortage, which would lead to more government overreach. So I got 2 more clips. These are of Biden talking about inflation and, well, the food shortage.
Today, the first cause of inflation is a once-in-a-century pandemic. Not only did it shut down our global economy, it threw the supply chains and demand completely out of whack, especially in countries where more effective recovery responses weren't available, especially in those sectors that rely on semiconductors. These supply challenges have been further hampered by the onset of Delta and Omicron viruses. And you've all seen it, you've all felt it. And this year we have a second cause, Mr. Putin's war in Ukraine. We saw in March that 60% of inflation that month was due to price increases at the pump for gasoline. Putin's war has raised food prices as well, because Ukraine and Russia, 2 of the world's major bread baskets for wheat and corn, are essentially completely stalled. Ukraine has 20 million tons of grain in storage in silos right now. They're trying to figure out how to get out of the country to market, which would reduce prices around the world. Normally we'd have already begun to export them into the market, but it hasn't because of Putin's invasion. So we're working with our European partners to get this food out into the world so that it could help bring down prices. But it's difficult because, again, of Putin and the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And those two major contributors to inflation are both global in nature.
Okay, so first off, he's sort of right. The coof did affect the global economy because of all the lockdowns. But the government put in place all these lockdowns. So you could say it was the government's fault too for putting in all these lockdowns. Did these lockdowns really help? I don't know. I remember during the coof, the middle of the coof, there were people talking about like who will pay for all this. Well, we are right now. So everybody was so worried about the coof that they didn't think what it was going to do to the economy. And now we're paying for it because people were more worried about the coof than the long-term effects of the economy. So it's like short-term, long-term. Right now we're dealing with the long-term effects, which is the economic crippling of all the lockdowns. Second here, he blames Putin for the rise in gas prices. Is this war raising the gas prices? Yes. But the gas prices were already soaring because of the inflation. And what was it? Biden canceled the Keystone Pipeline, if I'm not mistaken. And in my opinion, that cancellation caused a ripple effect in the prices because it created uncertainty as to what this new president was going to do. Because if that pipeline was finished, America could get gas from Canada, oil and gas from Canada, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, 830,000 barrels of oil per day from Canada. That's a lot, in my opinion. And you can see right here it says, we remain frustrated and disappointed at the circumstances of the cancellation. Do you know who would be really frustrated? The company who put in all that money to build the project just to have it canceled. I think it was $9 billion. And then the TC Energy Company got hit with almost a $2 billion suspension charge. And this pipeline was in construction for 12 years, planning and consulting and all that. So 12 years, everything just poof, gone. And that's when I noticed that my gas bill started going up, I should say. As soon as the Keystone Pipeline was canceled. As soon as I heard it on the radio, I was like, oh great, my gas prices are going to go up. Thanks a lot, America. A quick side note, another reason why my gas prices would be higher. I live on an island and there was a lot of flooding, so there was lots of roadways getting washed out, which again affects commerce because everything has to be put on a boat, ferry and shipped over. So with the roads being damaged, all that just gets slowed down, which raises the price. And another side note on top of that, with the increased gas prices, the ferries are costing more too. So yeah, it's not Putin's gas hike, it's Biden's gas hike. Because, well, I can't really blame nature, because nature does what nature does. Sometimes it's drier, sometimes it's wetter, and sometimes there's more snow. Now this last clip, Biden's yelling about food shortages.
Television, people line up all kinds of vehicles just to get a box of food in their trunk. How could we forget? People were hurting. And what does the MAGA crowd want to do? Forget it. Forget it. God says the United States of America, the idea that people would have to wait in line an hour, hour and a half to get a box of food. And they're drunk.
What did the MAGA crowd want to do? And it's what they didn't want you to do. They didn't want you to print more and more money, which would increase inflation. If I'm not mistaken, since January of 2020, the U.S. Federal Reserve has printed 80% of U.S. dollars in existence today. Because didn't Germany do a similar thing where they kept printing money and it got to a point where you needed like 1,000,000 Reichsmarks to buy a loaf of bread? So yeah, in summary, with all these food shortages, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see rationing of foodstuffs like we had during the coof. And this just might be my mistrust of politicians, but as the saying goes, never let a tragedy go to waste. Alright, that ramble was a bit longer than I anticipated. But anyway, take care.